Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where are you located at this time. And welcome to this webinar with the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce about how to redesign and launch a product in less than 8 weeks. And I know it sounds challenging, but it's possible. And today we will have the opportunity to learn how to do that. But before we get into that matters, I just would like to remind everyone that from the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce, we organize many different activities during the year, not only webinars like this one, but also in-person events. Everything it's available and announced in our website. So I encourage you to visit our website for more information about activities, events, and services from the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce. And our website is www.spainuschamber.com. Also, today's webinar, like always, we will share the presentation with all the attendees as well as the video. We will record this session and we will also upload it to our YouTube channel. I also encourage you to visit our YouTube channel, the YouTube channel of the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce, where you will be able to find a lot of different interesting webinars from many different topics that I'm sure will be very helpful for you and for your business. So we will also include this webinar in the YouTube channel. That way you could share it with friends and colleagues that might be interested in the topic, but weren't able to connect today. And last but not least, at the end of the presentation, we will host a Q&A so that anyone that have a specific question about the topic could send those questions to us and we will address all of them at the end. But you don't need to wait until the end to send those questions. You just need to send those questions through the question tab that is in your control panel that probably is in the right side of your screen. So there should be a tab that says questions or preguntas in case that it's in Spanish. You click there, you write the question, send it whenever you want. You can send questions from now until the end of the presentation, and we will take care of them at the end. And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our host today and the company that is behind this knowledge and this information. Innoway. Innoway, for those of you that are not familiar with the company, it's a global innovation consultancy. They help corporations and other organizations to innovate through state-of-the-art innovation management methodologies. So we hear a lot about innovation these days. And well, there are certain rules, there are certain methodologies that will help us to innovate in our companies. And this is what Innoway does. And with us today, it's Jorge Castellote. He's a results-driven innovator with a strong background in global business consulting, innovation management, and entrepreneurship. He led cross-functional teams and collaborated with clients in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, North America, and Asia, and designed and implemented frameworks centered on customer centricity, lean startup, and agile principles. So today, through Jorge, we will learn how to do that, specifically how to redesign and launch a product in less than 8 weeks. And now, without further ado, Jorge, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, Juan Carlos. Thanks for hosting me, and thanks for allowing me to do this with the US Chamber of Commerce. Let me present my screen, and you will tell me if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Okay.
You can
great.
set it the full screen if you like.
Is it this? Okay.
Let me. The icon at the bottom. If you want to go to the bottom, the bottom of the screen, next to the slide where you can set the the size of the screen. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Wonderful.
Well,
Thank you.
thanks again. The idea today is to briefly explain what is it that we do, and one of the case studies that we've done, one of the most successful ones, especially in terms of speed, and also trying to understand what innovation is. Innovation is a big word now that you mention it, and it's critical for companies. However, it's very difficult to implement. So I'll try to give a little bit of my experience and see if that can help to anybody who wants to try this internally. So my name is Jorge Castellote, originally Spanish, but I've had more than 20 years of experience across Europe, Middle East, Africa, and now the US. Um, the way I want to define myself is that I help organizations test and develop new solutions fast. That applies to all the way from small companies to large corporations. And we see what our experience is. Today, we're going to cover a couple of points. We're going to start with an introduction. Then we're going to talk about design sprints and how AI, now that everybody's talking about it, can actually help to improve the whole approach. Then a couple of real life case studies, the learnings and takeaways that we have learned. And at the end, sharing a little bit on how can you do that in your own company. Okay, so we are a team of innovation catalysts, strategists, facilitators, and designers that we want to help organizations to improve their innovation results through the implementation of methodologies like Juan Carlos was saying about lean startup, design thinking, and agile mainly, and also the principles behind. Our journey started back in 2015 in Dubai, and we have managed to grow or to be present in other areas. We've also delivered across the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and the US. Maybe you're familiar with some of the brands that we are presenting there, and people like working with us. So every time we finish, and you will have the opportunity to do that today, we share to our clients what is the how would you rate us, and that's the average that we have done so far. And we have a lot of experience in design sprints and other ways of innovating, but mainly today I'm going to be talking about design sprints, both remote and on-site. There's a little bit of pros and cons when doing remote and in-person, but we have experience in both. So what is design sprint? Design sprints is a methodology that was developed by a guy named Jake Knapp while he was in Google. And the idea was to make sure that they could deliver validated products in a faster way. And what I mean by validated products means that are products that will have a high success when it comes to implementing it with the customers. And this guy did was, after iterating for a long period of time, come up to the conclusion of coming up with a 5-day design sprint methodology. And each day has its own characteristics and methodology. Everything is captured in the book. So if you want to give it a try and if you want to learn, I strongly suggest you to read the book. It's kind of a how-to, so you can actually follow the different approaches and steps that is in the book, and also there's a lot of information online. What is that we do in addition to the design sprint, that is the main event, 5 days? We have added, based on our experience, 2 more phases, one at the beginning and one at the end, because we consider that those will complete the whole project, the whole engagement with our clients. The preparatory work, which is usually 3 to 4 weeks, and this depends on how fast we can work with the client in terms of gathering certain information, talking to stakeholders and things like that. And also there's another 5 days on average after, which is the handover, where we will make sure that whatever we have designed and validated during the design sprint can be implemented in the next weeks. So let's look at the preparatory work. During the preparatory work, we will focus on identifying what is that challenge or those challenges that will have a bigger impact to the organization and at the same time are viable for a design sprint. This includes certain interviews, internal workshops, and further data management, or gathering analysis. And after that, we put together what we call the contract with the client. The contract is the design sprint and framing exercise where we put the initial and the essential information to allow us to avoid any bottlenecks or any blocks during the 5 days. Things like what is the definition of success? How are we going to measure success? Who is the person who's going to take decisions if we need to take any decisions during the design sprint? After that is the 5 days design sprint where the first day is very well focused on defining the problem. And it's all about the problem. During that first day, because of the preparatory work, we will bring all the customers' feedback and we will act as the customer in the room. At the end of the day one, there's a decision by the stakeholders or the steering committee, whichever is the governing board that we have decided. Then day two is about sketching. So all the design sprint team members will have the opportunity to design their own solution for the problem that is being defined. Day three is focused on putting together the best ideas coming out from those sketches and decide what is going to be the solution to be prototyped on day four. Day four is about prototyping. We use the help of designers to make sure that we cover everything and in a quality enough to test it. Finally, day five is testing with the clients or customers. There's been some studies that say that after 5 tests with customers, you have a good understanding of the solution. We tend to do at least 5 and between 5 and 10 to make sure that our solution is according to the customer needs. And finally, the handover. The handover is a combination of the things that we've done, the things that we've learned, and also what can you do with this to implement it in your organization? And in doing that, we combine the agile roadmap with other methodologies that we are familiar with. In order to make this a reality, we use all the digital tools possible. And there's 2 tools that we really like, especially for remote. One is Mural, where you can actually facilitate the whole design sprint in remote. And the other one is Figma. Figma is a very good platform for prototyping fast, and that enables us to do it in a fast way. Finally, I wanted to briefly talk about AI and how it's impacting our discipline. There's many tools coming up every day. There's a new one. And what we are doing nowadays is to start identifying what are those tools that can help us in each one of the steps of the design sprint. Just to give you an example, during the preparatory work, you can start even conducting interviews with what is called synthetic users. It's a platform where you pretty much define your own customers, and then you can ask them certain questions. You can even test the solution. Still in beta state, but these are the things that in the future we should expect to speed up the whole process. Other examples, you have Kimola, where it can summarize the different feedback of your current products in different platforms. You can also use ChatGPT to ask them certain questions. During the design sprint, what is really helping to speed up the process is the whole prototyping with tools like Midjourney or Mixo. Mixo are these tools will allow you to develop websites, landing pages in the span of seconds based on a text. That text that can even come from ChatGPT if you do the right prompts. Finally, the handover, you can use ChatGPT to put together what is your roadmap, what are the risks, and what are the roadblocks, and the rest will come. And this is what I wanted to highlight is the key to using AI is how you use the prompts. Here are some examples. I don't want to go through all of them, but you can even ask ChatGPT to turn the descriptions into prompts that you can use for Midjourney. And that's how the different tools are connecting. And other things that we use is to summarize the different interviews, because what we do, we record the interviews, you get the transcript from Zoom or Teams, and then you can easily copy and paste all those transcripts into ChatGPT and tell the tool to put together either the highlights, the keywords, whatever you need. So let's jump into a couple of case studies. One is going to be more in detail, and the other ones are other examples that we've done in the past and how we have applied design sprint to solve other solutions beyond products and services. So this is the case of a telco in the Middle East. They had a challenge that they wanted to improve the online SIM cards, the selling online SIM cards in the current platform. The that when we started, the platform was not working really well, and they wanted to understand why, and they wanted to implement it and launch it in less than 8 weeks. So we took the challenge and we used the design sprint methodology to speed up the process. And we managed to get 50% more of overall customer satisfaction, and we will understand how we measure that and why, and 70% of sales conversion. So the first thing that we did during the preparatory work was to understand the challenge and to scope where was the best solution and the highest benefit. We tend to use the 80-20 rule or the Pareto approach, where we want to understand what is the major benefit. And going through the numbers, we realized that 80% of the SIM card demand was coming from 3 customers. So what we did was we dig deeper into these 3 customers, and we understood what were the main products and services that they were looking for, not only in those terms, but also in terms of budgeting and in terms of why they were going to be using those products and services. We also did a qualitative research as well, where we would present the current situation or the current solution to the potential 3 customers, and we asked them to give us some feedback. We did this through a series of interviews where we went outside the room, outside the company, and we met all the different customers in their own, let's say, in their own nature. This is one of the things that we believe in that will create the biggest value when you're entering the design sprint, and it's knowing your customers. So we tend to run several interviews beforehand, and we also do a lot of testing to understand that we know when we enter the room during these 5 weeks, we know everything about the customer. After doing that is the 5 days design sprint, where, as I was saying before, the day one was about the identifying and defining the scope of the problem. And in this case, as you can see, it's an in-person design sprint where we put together all about the problem. On day two, we started sketching. Day three was finally deciding. And in this case, which is usually the case, we put together the solution based on bits and pieces for the different sketches coming from all the team members. And day four, we prototyping, and finally we tested with real customers. So we tested the prototype with customers, and this was also done through a series of sessions with the customers randomly selected in the streets of this city in particular. What is the benefit of this? The benefit is that customers will not be biased and will give you the most honest feedback when you do that, which is what you're looking for. A couple of notes and suggestions. Whenever you do this type of tests, first make sure that you're identifying the customer that you're looking for. Secondly, make sure that you ask them for permission. Sometimes people are in a rush or they are thick. So make sure that you cover that. And finally, make sure that you have some sort of gift or appreciation for them. In this case, we would give them some some bonus for some gift cards with some some bonus for their phones. And finally, we got the results. So as I was saying, the performance was improved by 50% and the sales conversions by 70%. This is the comparison between the current situation and the prototype. So as I was saying, what we do is we start, if there's any existing product, we start by evaluating that and setting the KPIs that will define success in our design sprint. Then we measure it and we compare that with the KPIs or the evaluation of the prototype. Another important thing that you need to define on day four is what are the scenarios or the user cases that you're going to be evaluating. When doing a prototype, you need to define what is it that you want to improve, and that's defined by the KPIs and the scenarios. In this example, the scenarios where I want to measure how fast people can buy a SIM card online and what would be the satisfaction of the process of doing that. We were also measuring other things, but for the sake of the example, we limited to these two. And those were the results. After that, we put together an agile roadmap, and we also used all the prototype assets. In this case, there was a very comprehensive backlog with all the features that we wanted to implement, and also was a high commitment from the leadership team to make this happen, which is key in this situation, especially in the delivery part, once you finalize the design sprint. And as I was saying, there's a lot of companies that use this opportunity to start implementing a new ways of working. And in this case, the difference is that usually people tend to, or companies tend to implement this in a waterfall approach. But what we suggest is to start using agile methodologies where they allow you to develop certain versions, as you can see here from 1 to 5, that you can put in front of the customer. So following this approach, we put together the different phases, the different scrums, to make sure that we will reach the intended launch date, and we did. So these are the things that we suggest. When it comes to the design sprint, we've used it in other areas. In this case, we used it to solve physical problems, where we double the sales conversion and we increase the business impact. This was for an MCG company, where we revamped the whole way of selling this particular product. And we've also used design sprints to actually solve other business activities or other business challenges. In this case, was the operating model. And by applying design sprint, we managed to reduce the implementing time from 3 months to 6 months of the traditional approach. So what have we learned by doing all these design sprints? Well, first of all, you need to understand that the design sprint goes beyond just the practical approach of 1 week of fast experimentation, testing, and validation. And you can get tangible results fast. And we strongly suggest to use this to start even the digital transformation, agile transformation, all these ways of companies that they are transforming from a more agile approach. And it's a methodology that is very well focused on customer results and business results. The other thing that we learned is that we need to start from the customer. So everything needs to start from the customer or the consumer and work backwards, in the sense of, by knowing the customer needs, pains, and gains, you can pretty much design a very good solution. If you avoid that step, the risk of coming up with a product that is not successful is higher. So what we usually do is we follow two approaches. Looking into the company, which companies are very good at doing that, but also what we provide is more the looking out approach, where we push the organization to talk to customers in a different way, so you can have another feedback. The other thing that we believe in is prototyping. Prototyping is something that you need to be good at. And I'm not saying in terms of the quality, it's more about the speed. We have learned how to, first of all, define the scope that can be done in 1 day to prototype, and secondly, to use the different tools to have a prototype good to test on day 5. So in doing so, what could be the recommendations from us to you if you want to start this in your company? The first part is start small. There's been cases where we engage with companies, and the initial challenge is a very strategic, but it's very big. So what we start doing is break down that challenge into smaller things that can be solved with the help of the design sprint approach. The second thing that we do is we evaluate that challenge if it's good for applying design sprints. We have this very simple decision tree where we ask ourselves some questions, and we let the organizations ask these questions in order to make a decision. Sometimes the decision is, this is not good for a design sprint, or maybe the decision is this is good for a 3-day design sprint, or it's good to just build it. And this helps us to make that decision. The other thing that we would recommend, strongly recommend, is to start, not to start the design sprint week without having a clear understanding of what success looks like and what is the scope. We use this simple but very effective template where we identify things like what is the desired outcome? How are we going to measure success? Who is the decider and the delegated decider? Who is the team and what are the limitations? So if you follow this simple template and you agree with your customer or your client, it will facilitate the things, or it will avoid certain delays and roadblocks during the 5 days week, with the 5 day sprint. And finally, combine experimentation with agile. Once you run the design sprint, you realize that there are certain things that you need further validation, and you can use more of a lean startup approach where you run experiments and MVPs. For those of you who are not familiar, MVPs, minimum viable product, and is a way to validate or invalidate hypotheses behind their customer needs. Once you have validated that, you can easily turn that into the product backlog of your agile team. In that way, you have a very effective way of turning customer needs into features for your product. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for your attention. While we ask for questions, it would be great if you can go to menti.com, and I'm going to highlight it here, and give us some feedback. So there's some questions there for you to answer, and would be great if you can do it while we are getting some questions.
Thank you so much, Jorge. Thank you so much. So, yeah, we open the Q&A right now. So, anyone that might have any question or comment about what Jorge just talked about, please send us those questions through the question tab that will appear in the control panel that probably is in the right side of your screen at this time. So you just need to click in questions, write your question, and send it to us. We will get those questions. We already have a few ones, and we will address them to Jorge. And meanwhile, as Jorge said, if you would like to scan this QR code that you see in your screen, that will send you to a landing page with a couple of questions that Jorge is interested in knowing about you. So, Jorge, we already have a few questions from our attendees today. So, first question is this only applicable to B2C or is also viable for B2B?
That's a very good question. Actually, we just delivered a B2B design sprint, and it's applicable because what we need to understand is this is applicable wherever you have a client supplier relationship. And in a B2B environment, you will always have a client that you need to support. So you can do it with a B2B company as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next question. They send us, please, examples of prototyping. Are you talking about programming all the time or also building physical products, physical prototypes?
So the scope of this prototyping in particular design sprints is about desirability. So it's the front end part of a digital product or the physical appearance for a physical product. As you validate or invalidate things, at the end of the design sprint, you can start, let's say, connecting that with your software in the case of a digital company, or you can start converting those prototypes into more of a functional prototype. I don't know if I've explained that, and that could lead to further testing in terms of functionality, in terms of speed, in terms of um, the different areas that are from the functional point of view,
So
performance, things like that.
so what you do with this prototyping is to create the look and feel of the product that will go, but not functionality is needed at first.
No, but we need to understand that by validating the real functions that the client or the customer needs, we can reduce a lot of development. Companies tend to, or there's some companies that in the past, what they've done is they start developing products from a technical position, either engineering, technology, and they end up with an extremely functional product, but very difficult to use from the customer perspective. What we have learned throughout the years is that if you start with the customer, you avoid a lot of features that the customer doesn't want, and the opposite. You will focus on the features which are the needs of what the customer is looking for.
But at the end of the day, are you bringing in the last phase, the phase where you, well, not the last one, but the phase where you test the prototype with the customer, are you bringing them a prototype that it's only just look and feel, or a prototype that has the functionalities so that this customer could use it, and in the case of the SIM card, could purchase the SIM card?
It's only the function. It's only the user experience view, which will validate the what is the what is the customer looking for. It all depends in a further phase, which is the implementation, how fast the company is able to develop and connect the functionalities that we have identified into the final platform. For
Okay.
example, sometimes we identify that there are certain things that the customer wants, but from the development point of view, they're either long term or they're very expensive or they need to buy them outside. Those are the things that follow up on the roadmap. So in the roadmap, we will decide what are the things that come first, what are the things that need to be developed internally, what are the things that you need to buy. The famous buy or build decisions,
Mhm.
that is the that is decided during the roadmap.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Next question. Is the in-person design sprint better than the remote version?
Well, it's a good question. I think more than better, it all depends on the situation. In general, the remote has been proven to be very effective because it will. The good thing about the remote is that everything, all the information is registered, both the the sessions, everything that is been said and done through Mural, through Teams. So from a data point of view, it's much more effective, the remote. Also, the sessions are shorter because we tend to go faster, or we tend to do them faster or dedicate less time because of the intensity of the screen. But when you do it face to face, the whole team experience is much better. So you can create more engagement among team members that for some reason, they don't usually work together because they're coming from different departments. Overall, I would go for a remote design sprint if you're more focusing on solving the problem and developing the product. if you want to create a transformation, I would go for an in-person.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Very interesting, those point of view. Next questions. What are your thoughts on team augmentation services in order to save time? Getting technology enablement experts who have previously successfully created solutions to partner with company and connect with stakeholders.
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah. So in general, the question is, what are your thoughts on team augmentation services in order to save time? That's the main question.
Team augment. What would be the team augmentation? What is the meaning
Not
of that?
sure, but this gentleman, Atif, could please elaborate. If you could explain a little bit what team augmentation, what you mean with team augmentation services, we'll be more than happy to again go further into the question. And meanwhile, we will follow up with other questions that we have. Can you use the design sprint methodology to develop physical products and to save costs?
Well, let's go step by step. So for physical products, yes, you can. It's just a matter of having the right prototyper. I think that's very important. And to save costs, it's also possible. The reason is you can define your design sprint as how can we reduce the features that we're currently using in a product that the customer is not using, and hence we can reduce our development time or maintenance efforts. So it's a matter of how you focus and the scope and the approach to the design sprint. But it can be feasible. Just that the design sprint purpose would be to identify what are the features that are not very well used from the customer, to reduce or to eliminate them.
Okay, thank you so much. Another question. Juan is asking, what are some of the best ways to overcome hesitations for clients that are hesitant to trying these modern agile methodologies?
That's a very good question. So we get that all the time, the skepticism and the risk of taking new methodologies. What I would say is this is a very small investment that you can test with something that is not um, extremely important, but it's important enough that if you solve it, you will show that this works. So I always say that just let's take a challenge that is valuable, but it's not very critical in the sense of exposure to the organization or in terms of size. You can always define the design sprint to be an example for the organization to test the methodology and the results and to learn from it. So I always start with that. What is something that we can do that will have a lot of benefits and will not break the company?
Great advice. Thank you so much. And talking about that, you mentioned problem. And at the beginning of the presentation, you start, let's identify the problem. So question is there always have to be a problem? And second, what if there are more than one problem?
So when I talk about the problem is definition of a challenge or improvement area. Just for commonality, I use problem, but it's just identifying where I want to improve. What is that particular area, strategic objective, strategic initiative that I want to improve. So we should start with that, and maybe it's better to start with a positive word like improvement area. And when there's more than one problem, which there's usually more than one or improvement area, it can be a risk, and it can be a risk that will it will lead to failure. So that's why the preparation part is very key, to start converging into something that is feasible, that is, it can be done through a design sprint, and we will get results. And it's a fine line, to be honest, where we've been in situations where we were very ambitious. So we had to, during the design sprint, we had to compensate for that in terms of more development or more prototype, the prototype to become bigger, or deciding on what are the scenarios would be. Instead of all the scenarios that we intended, we will reduce it. Also, the KPIs will help you to prioritize what is the objective.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Another question. You mentioned several times agile methodology. Can you please elaborate a bit about that? And you compare it with waterfall approach. Can you also elaborate the difference between the two of those?
So the fundamental difference from agile and waterfall is that you have a period of time in agile where you are committed to deliver something, and that part of the product or the service, the conditions is that you will be able to put it in front of the customer and have feedback. Whereas in the waterfall approach, there's no such thing as in 1 month we're going to deliver something that can be tested or presented to the client. It might be a piece of the product that not necessarily is a complete piece of the product. That's the main difference. What are the benefits of this is that you can correct your investments. At the end of the day, we're talking about making better investment decisions. And when you have the opportunity to, first of all, to define your work, to have something finished by 1 week, 2 weeks, or a month, which is what the agile methodology tells you, you have an opportunity to make sure that you're in the right direction every month. So you're doing monthly investments as opposed to yearly investments without knowing in what direction you're going. I'm not sure if that.
Yeah, I think it's clear and very interesting as well. Thank you for that. More questions that we have. What makes Innoway design sprint different from the standard version?
Very good question. Happy to answer. So there's, I would say, two major things. One, as I was mentioning before, we make sure that we know the customer and we bring the customer into the room while we run the design sprints. The second one is that because of our background is on strategy, we can identify and we can connect the design sprint or the product or service that you want to solve, or the problem that you want to solve, with your strategic direction. And we do that before and after the sprint. Before, because we start from the strategy. So we tend to ask the organizations why you want to do this and how is this going to impact you in the long term. And at the end, once we are developing the agile roadmap, we connect this in a way that is aligned with your strategy.
Perfect. Wonderful. More questions. What are the best ways to track KPIs to give live and accurate feedback? And any programs or plugins in particular that you recommend?
So it in general, when you're during the design sprint, there's the we've used several ones. So when it's a device, when you're using a phone, as simple as recording the session would help. Um, and when you want to know more about the different sessions of the people, you can use Hotjar that will record all the different sessions, and it will even give you a heat map. That's a very good one. Other than that, it's mainly manual because of when you're doing the design sprint, the the testing is at least 5 people, and we do between 5 and 10 depending on the situation. So at the end of the day, it's easier and faster to do it manually for 10 people than to rely on different plugins.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jorge. Let's see more questions that we got here. Uh, yes, we have here. Can you explain the roles and responsibilities of team members involved in the design sprint and how their collaboration contributed to the project's success?
Oof, okay, so what are the people involved in the first of all, we define that based on the design sprint and the challenge. But usually you have products, you have product, you have technology, you have marketing, you have design, and probably commercial. Those are the ones who are represented during the design sprint. The benefits is that the more diverse the team, the more points of view you will have. Remember that during the design sprint, every team member will have the opportunity individually to design their own solution. So everybody's contributing with that perspective. And that's one thing. The other one is during the discussions, there's like a healthy tension between the different departments to make sure that the solution is according to the different requirements from the different departments. At the end of the day, the team, sorry, the customer is the one who is deciding what solution likes or not. That's from the design sprint team members. Then you have a very important element, which is the governance board or the governance that you put together, how you make decisions. And those are decisions are happening on day 1, day 3, and day 4. It's very critical to engage the different people who are part of the design of the decision process to make decisions on time. One thing that is important and sometimes it is difficult is to actually have these people to be on that day to decide. We have had situations where, for some reasons, we have had to move the decision time, or some people might not be possible to attend. So you need to make sure that the people who are assigned to making decisions are on time. And also, if they are not on time, you always have the delegated decider, which is that person that can make decisions on behalf of the decider.
Mhm. Very good. Good advice.
Mhm.
Uh, Another question. I'm curious to know, how do you convince clients the importance to interview the end user?
Oof. Sometimes we don't even ask. We just go because there's and we understand that being in a company, depending on where you are and how big the company is, you're very far from the consumer. We have ways and tools to identify those end users. We just go and run interviews for ourselves. Usually it's more of a we found this as opposed to can we interview. Obviously we follow the path of of the organization or whoever we're working with and ask them if they have certain consumers that we can interview. Sometimes that is even difficult for them. So what we use alternative sources to find users to interview.
Wonderful. Yes, another question is, will you share the presentation? Yes, we will
Yeah.
share the presentation. We also will share this recording video. All the session will be recorded, will be shared with all the attendees, and also will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, where you could find not only this one, but many other webinars that we hosted in the last 2 or 3 years. So I encourage you to take a look to our website, which is www.spainuschamber.org, and you will go there to our YouTube channel and check all the presentations. And of course, if you have further questions, you can check those directly with Jorge. You have here Jorge's email in the screen, his phone number, and Innoway's website as well. So if you would like to go deeper in some of the things that we learned today, you can send him an email directly or call him to discuss a little bit more in depth about what we've been discussing today. Jorge, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure learning about this way to innovate for companies.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. I try to show and share as much as possible in 1 hour. Obviously, behind all these methodology, there's a lot of details that are important to consider. But I'm happy to answer them through email or any other mean. And thanks for the
Yeah.
chamber for this opportunity.
No, it's been a pleasure. And my sense here, I mean, I believe that almost any company could use that way to innovate, that process that you explained through Innoway. But what I would like, and I'm sure that everybody here would love, it's to bring you on board and keep your team with us for 1 week and learn hands-on what's going on, how you're doing this and that. No, you gave a lot of interesting ideas, but when I'm thinking, how would I bring this to earth? There are a lot of many questions that arise. So it would be great to bring you to our offices, all of us, and be with you 1 week to learn exactly how this should be done. But for that, you have Jorge here. You have his contact information. You can contact him directly and invite him home to spend a week with your company and learn how to do this. I'm sure everyone could take advantage of this way of innovation.
Happy to be invited. And thanks again.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for being with us today. As always, we will share, as we said, the presentation and the video, and we hope that we will see you in the next webinar with the Spain US Chamber of Commerce. Please don't forget to check our website for new activities, events, webinars, and a lot of different things that we are bringing this year, not only to Miami, but to many other places in the United States. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Jorge, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.